Shabbat Shalom. Nice to see everyone. So nice to be back with you all after being away last Shabbat. Mazel Tov to Ellie and her family. I really appreciate sharing this Shabbat with you and your family members, especially those who count in Pennsylvania and even those in Virginia. All right. No more puns. We all count. Since I was away last Shabbat, I had the chance to spend some quality time with my boys and Sharon. And I was thinking back to when my kids were younger. 13 years ago, Sharon and I kind of had our hands full with 3 kids under the age of 6 years old. And amidst the sleep deprivation and what else did we have? The diaper changes. I remember thinking that one day this is going to get much, much easier when our kids get older. Well, fast forward all these years, and the years do go by rather quickly. And while I do not have the same responsibilities as a parent of young children, I have to say it's not easier. If anything, it's actually harder. And I'm sorry to say this to the parents of young children, if there are any who are zooming in this morning. As we say in Yiddish, kleiner Kinder, kleiner Zures. Größer Kinder, größer Zures. Smaller children, small troubles. Bigger children, bigger troubles. Trying to deal with screen time amidst a pandemic is no piece of cake. And the complexities of the issues that teens and their parents face these days are really not easy. That said, having teens who are thoughtful, compassionate, and who teach me each day how to be a better person is really the most amazing gift that I could ever ask for. They debate me really well and challenge me and help me refine my thinking on so many issues. Nowadays, they even recommend books, movies, and TV shows for me. It's pretty special. Recently, Matan, my 13-year-old, asked me to read a book that he just finished. So I started this amazing book. I don't know if you can see it. There you go. Humankind, a hopeful history by Rutger Bregman. While I've not finished it, it's a significant tome. I am already blown away by this book and how it takes down the cynical view that human beings are fundamentally selfish and unkind. He opens the book with an amazing example from World War II, which is worth sharing. In order to defeat the British, Adolf Hitler, Yamach Shemo, may his name be erased, began a bombing campaign which is fairly well known, called the Blitz. It was predicated upon an idea that if the British population broke under the terror of his bombers, it would bring about bedlam and pandemonium among the British people, and then Britain would surrender. Even Britain's great Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, believed that this would work and that some 3 to 4 million Londoners would flee the capital under the strain of the bombing. Now, the strategy was based on a book that was published in 1895 by the French thinker Gustave Le Bon, entitled The Psychology of the Masses, which claimed that people respond poorly in a crisis. As soon as a crisis occurs, Le Bon wrote that people descend several rungs in the ladder of civilization. Once people panic, violence ensues, and society degrades into chaos. Bregman relates that Hitler briefed his generals on October 19th, 1939, about his plan. The Luftwaffe, the German Air Force, would mercilessly bomb London, and the population would then panic. They would hide in shelters, never to emerge. Almost a year later, on Saturday, September 7th, 1940, 348 bombers crossed the English Channel. It was a beautiful day, and many Londoners were outside enjoying it. At 4:43 p.m., the siren sounded, and everyone looked to the sky to see the planes drop their first bombs. It became known as Black Saturday, and more than 80,000 bombs would be dropped on the city over the next 9 months over what would be called the Blitz. It was devastating. Entire neighborhoods were wiped out. 40,000 people were killed. But Bregman points out that people did not get hysterical. They did not descend into inhumanity. He cites the witness of Dr. John McCordy, a Canadian psychiatrist who drove through a poor neighborhood that was devastated by the relentless bombing. Quote, "All that remained was a patchwork of craters and crumbling buildings. If there was one place that was sure to be in the grips of pandemonium, this was it." So what did the doctor find moments after an air raid alarm would sound in this neighborhood? Small boys continued to play all over the pavement. Shoppers went on haggling. A policeman directed traffic in, as he wrote, majestic boredom. And the bicyclists defied death and the traffic laws. No one, as far as I could see, even looked into the sky. Evidently, Hitler had forgotten to account for one thing: the quintessential British character, the stiff upper lip, the wry humor, as expressed by shop owners who posted signs in front of their wrecked premises announcing "more open than usual," or the pub proprietor who, in the midst of the devastation, advertised, our windows are gone, but our spirits are excellent. Come in and try them." Within weeks, the Germans launched their bombing campaign. Updates were being reported in the news, much like the weather. Very blitzy tonight. The mental toll did not materialize as public mental health actually improved. Alcoholism tailed off. There were fewer suicides than in peacetime. British society actually became stronger in the face of the Blitz. Gustave Le Bon was wrong. Bregman argues that people are fundamentally good, even in the face of unbelievable challenges. But there are 2 points that I want to make. First, Britain had a strong, moral, clear, and compassionate leader in Winston Churchill. We have been lacking that. And they were united in the face of a common enemy, the Nazis. Today, we are living in challenging times. We have a deadly, contagious pandemic that has taken the lives of almost 240,000 Americans. The first U.S. case of COVID was reported on the same day as the first case of COVID was reported in South Korea. South Korea took it very seriously. They followed very strict guidelines. They followed their scientists. We did not. If we had done what they did, and then you extrapolate that to our much larger population, there would be fewer than 2,500 deaths in the United States. If we had followed, let's say, less strict guidelines than South Korea, but much better ones than what we have done, let's say like what Australia did, a society more like our own, then we would have something like 11,000 deaths. That means that some 230,000 people died unnecessarily. That is most tragic, inexcusable, horrible. Our country seems to be divided between those who believe in science and those who seem not to. Those who are willing to take basic preventive measures like wearing masks, and those who do not. The election has sharpened this divide between urban and rural dwellers. I could see that last weekend driving around the middle of New Hampshire. But we need to find ways to listen to each other and come together. Let us see this as a moment of change, a moment of hope, a moment of opportunity. As Ellie taught in her insightful Dvar Torah, Parashat Ve'era is filled with moral messages and acts of kindness. I want to hone in on one episode that I think offers us a guide for this moment. The Torah states in the first verse of this week's reading, V'hu yoshev petach ha'oel kechom hayom. Avram was sitting at the entrance of the tent in the heat of the day. Rashi, our great commentator, asks, why would he be sitting at the entrance of the tent, at the edge of the tent, kind of half outside? If it's the heat of the day, wouldn't it be smarter to sit inside the tent where it would be cooler, especially if it was the hottest time of the day? Why would he be doing that? Rashi asks his own question by saying that Abraham wanted to sit there so that he could see if anyone was passing, so he could invite them in for some water, for some food, and take care of them. He went out of his way, kechom hayom, in the midday heat in the desert. And that's just what Abraham and Sarah do as they quickly care for their three visitors, as they serve them a hastily prepared but delicious meal. This is simple kindness. This is welcoming strangers, hachnasat orchim, as it is known in our tradition. This is not caring about your guests if they are different from you, if they hold a different political opinion, if they are immigrants, if they are from a different place or country. It did not matter to Avraham. It is simple, common decency. It's something we should all practice. It's something that was woven into the very fabric of this country. But the fabric has become a bit worn. It's a bit tattered and torn in places. We've let people trample all over it and maybe even stomp on it. We have watched our civil discourse twitter away as social media has eaten away at the way we communicate. We've lost some of the basic norms of how our government should act. We've lost sight of our model of Avraham sitting in the heat of the day, not caring about which party you align with, the color of your skin, the car you drive, or if you are an urban or rural dweller. We have lost our way a little bit, but we can find our way back. Hillel, our great sage 2,000 years ago, always reminds us that the whole Torah can be summarized by the Torah's central teaching, V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love your neighbor as yourself, a seemingly simple commandment, but one which is actually not so simple, not so easy. Rabbi Isaac Luria, the great 16th century Kabbalist living in Tzfat in northern Israel, realized it was hard to do this, and he gave us a tool to make it stick. He inserted the following formula into the morning service. Hareini mikabel alai mitzvat haborei ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. He said that you should say this formula: I hereby accept the obligation of fulfilling the Creator's mitzvah as it is written in the Torah, love your neighbor as yourself. Maybe we should all start by reciting this. Start each morning with this verbal intention and then try to practice it. First, love yourself. It's not always easy. Then bring some love to another person, someone around you, and then keep widening your circle, your tent. Maybe we can become more like Abraham. Imagine then what our country could be like once again. Make America like that again. It's time for our country to start healing and coming together. After all the divisiveness of the last years and of this election, it's time to stop and start with kindness. Let us remember that while in some ways this is a harder challenge than the Blitz, since it's not an external enemy like the Nazis, it's an invisible virus, and divisiveness and hatred and internal discord and disagreements about basic truths and facts. And these are truly hard to overcome. Let us begin with basic kindness. Let us begin by remembering that people are fundamentally good. Everyone has a divine spark of light, of goodness within them. The leader we have chosen for this moment, we hope will provide the kind of leadership that Winston Churchill did: calm and compassionate, reasonable and reasoned. He will set out to tackle COVID and to unify the country for all its people. Let us come together to support our great country in its time of need. God bless America, and Shabbat Shalom.